you some water.
Thank you. And then we'll take questions.
Okay, so thank you, audience, for your being here. And we'd like to open up the floor for questions. And Kali, would you mind just repeating the question?
Yeah, I do that.
Okay, so thank you. If you would just raise your hand and we'll call on you.
I love your Pikachu socks and the Tims. That's a cute little mix. Okay, I see a person behind Nancy, and then I'll take Nancy. Okay. Hi.
How did you know when you were done researching?
How did I know when I was done researching? Okay, so that's actually kind of an interesting question because I feel like a loss right now because I was researching and working on Woman of Light for over a decade. So it has actually been an abrupt shift. Even after the book was turned in and it was going through the mechanism of publishing, I still was really sort of hunting for research on those certain topics. It kind of was like I was running down like a long runway. I didn't just come to an immediate stop. I actually had to like kind of slow down and trot into something new. But I knew when the story itself had completed itself for me. So I allowed the characters and the plot and the narration to tell me it's time to stop. And also, I have a new book that I'm working on. And so once those sort of interests started taking over a little bit more, that's when I realized it's time to kind of pivot away from the Woman of Light research. But I will say, because Woman of Light is about my background, my ancestry, this is nothing that I can just stop researching. I will always be learning about my people, but I won't be specifically putting it into this novel, if that makes sense. So, thank you for your question. Nancy, would you like to ask a question?
First of all, thank you for paving the way for Colorado authors. I am one of them myself, and you've inspired me so much.
Thank you, Nancy. Thank you. We do, and Nancy actually sent me her book when I was at MacDowell, and there's like, MacDowell's like filled with just like famous writers and artists everywhere, but I like sat up in my room and I read your book, and I was like, this is so fascinating. So I do recommend getting Nancy's book. Yeah.
My question though, I loved your cover, the first cover and the second one, Study. You talked about the first cover. Can you tell us about this new cover?
Yeah.
Because it looks a lot like you or your mom.
Yeah. Well, that's very perceptive of you because it's actually is... Okay, I'll tell the story. So, okay, you think the publisher is going to get it like bang out, knock out, they're going to get it right this time. And then they show you the covers and you're like, how did you mess up again? Like, what is going on here? So one of the big issues with the original covers, inside of Woman of Light, there is what's known as the Red Theater. And this is a sandstone theater that's built into the landscape. And Pidre, in 1898, actually buys the theater and starts having Wild West shows inside of the theater. It's a little bit based on Mesa Verde, but it's also based a little bit on Red Rocks. But it's not Red Rocks. It's way down south near Durango. The publisher literally took a picture of Red Rocks and made it vector art and put it on the cover of the book. And then they took an old-timey photograph of the actress Dolores Del Rio. And then again, they kind of photoshopped her. And then she was standing in the middle of Red Rocks singing. And that was supposed to be my cover. And I was like, whoa, 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 whoa. Everybody in Colorado is going to think that this is a Red Rocks concert book. Like, this will not sell except to people who like Red Rocks shows, which is all of us, but that's not what I wanted. So we have a lot of back and forth. And one of the things I've learned is that I hope I don't have a reputation for being a diva at the publisher. I don't think I do. I think I have a reputation for being somebody that will gently stand my ground. So I wrote several emails, and we ended up having a meeting with the art director. He's a really wonderful person, and his assistant. And I said, look, like, I want something that speaks to the land that I come from. I want the vegetation from where I come from. I want the mountains from where I come from. And we were like brainstorming. It was like a pitch session. Everybody was like throwing out what kind of image should be the central focal point. And somebody said, oh, because it's a Western somewhat, let's put a person on a horse. And I said, what about a woman on a horse? And they're like, yeah, I like that idea. What if she's holding like a teacup? Because Luce is a tea leaf reader. And I said, no one's going to be able to see a teacup on a horse. And then there's a sharpshooter. So someone said, what if she's holding a gun? And I said, I don't want a gun on the cover of my book. And so I was like, let's get back to this. Like, let's keep thinking. And I went home to my parents' house that weekend, and I was digging through an old box, and there was this birth announcement from 1984 from my older sister. And on the birth announcement was this beautiful Indigenous woman wrapped in a blanket holding the baby. And I opened it up and it said, welcome baby Asia. And it was my mom's birth announcement that she made with a copy machine. And I sent it to the publisher and I said, this is the woman on the horse. Put the woman on the horse. And everybody was like, wow, that's crazy. That you found her. And that is the woman on the horse. So, yeah. Thank you for noticing that, Nancy. Hi.
So as a person from so many mixed backgrounds, being raised by queer people, being raised in a brown and Indigenous family, there's different things I feel we learn about the world. What are some unique perspectives that you found being a person that has such duality and uniqueness?
Yeah, that's such a smart and like beautiful question, and I think the ways that I kind of gather all that knowledge I learn is through my fiction. But I would say that what people do tell me about my fiction is that I love all my characters. Even my characters who are kind of bad or mess up or they got some character traits like, okay, Luce, for example. If you've read Woman of Light, you know Luce does some stuff that's questionable in this book. And I'm sure it's tanking my Goodreads reviews, but I don't care. Because I learned that people are human beings, and that means extending love and grace and compassion, even when you feel like it's difficult. And I think that's something that's really missing in a lot of the ways that we're taught that we should be in the world. Like when you go to school, if you're a troublemaker in the class, you get moved to the back seat or you get taken out to a special classroom instead of the class kind of gathering around you and say, what can we do to help you more? And so I think the ways that I've lived in this world is like, instead of ostracizing or shunning or outcasting people that maybe are a little bit different or don't think exactly the way I do, I'm really curious. Why did you make that decision? I want to know more about that, and also learning that there are strengths in that. For like Luce, I keep coming back to her, but you know, she's able to provide for herself and her family by getting a job, even at great cost. Even if that job comes with her feeling like I'm torn, like I have these emotional longings, but I'm also in a power dynamic that's very confusing. I'm not mad at Luce. I'm questioning her and I'm trying to understand her. And at the end of the book, she makes a pretty abrupt decision, but she goes and she talks about it. She talks to the matriarch. She talks to Maria Josie. She talks to her cousin, her best friend, and she says, I messed up. I did this thing. I don't feel very good about it. And I think that's what I'm trying to get out with my books, and also diminish shame. I felt even though I grew up in this incredible, open, and wonderful family, that doesn't mean that all shame was vanished. I still grew up Catholic. I remember, like, I had to go to first, you know, when you do your, like, first confession, the priest was like, okay, so, like, what have you done to sin? And I was like, nothing. Like, just straight face. And he was like, that's not true. I know you've sinned. Like, what sins have you committed? And I was like, absolutely no sins. And he's like, do you ever not help your mom around the house? Or, like, do you ever not take care of the younger siblings? And I was like, why would that be my responsibility? So eventually I did confess. And then I got to take my first communion. But yeah, so I think diminishing shame, letting people know that you're not alone, and building community. I like to think of like my readership as a big community, not necessarily fans. This is a community that I'm trying to build. So thank you for that question. Did I repeat it?
No.
Do you want to repeat it? Are you recording this?
I forgot what it was.
Okay, I always forget.
I'm recording it, but
Okay.
if you did want to repeat it.
I don't remember it. But it's stated inside the answer. Okay. On to the next one. Any other questions? Yes, hey, how are you?
Can we get a sneak peek of what you're writing?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I don't have it on my phone or anything, but.
What it's about?
Yeah, sure. So, I'm working on a couple things. I'm working on a short story that I'm going to rip up and start over again with, about a country singer. She's Chicana, and she's living in Austin, and she has to come home for a funeral. And I've always been really interested in music. That's why, like, Bob Dylan is the epigraph for Sabrina and Karina. And I cannot sing, but that's one sort of gift that I wish I had. And I think if I could sing, like, I would use it all the time. Have you ever been like at a bar or like doing karaoke and that person with that angel voice just like comes out and like blows everybody away? And I'm like, how are you not singing at all times? Like, that's all I would do. So I'm working on that character. But the new one, it's dystopian. And when I say dystopian, it's just reality that we live in. But it follows an archivist main character, and her sister is a scavenger that goes and pillages old sort of ancient dwellings, and there's a climate crisis, but it's set here, and it's tentatively titled Mountain South. So that's what I'll tell you now, and maybe you'll see a book deal announcement, like if I get my shit together and write a book. Yeah, thank you.